breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, we're in Friendly Low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. Joining me in segment number 2, we've got one of our good friends, Chris Cichon, aboard. He does amazing work over at WTOP Sports. Along with that, USA Today, we're going to be discussing with him what he's all noticed in the first few weeks of the season, if there are any teams, any pitchers that have really been surprising him to the positive or the negative. And we're going to be diving into the Tuesday card, and then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @Unit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter. So, as per usual, please send these into the timeline. Other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. Then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any of those old Twitter/X questions today, but had a fun day of baseball on Monday. Let's dive into it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Was quite a low-scoring day out in baseball on Monday, but we saw the biggest underdog of the season cash. A lot of places closed with the Washington Nationals right around about plus 335. Circuit closed them up plus 375, and the Nationals get the job done by a 6-4. Absolutely hilarious. I just could not justify the Washington Nationals being that big of an underdog. And for young Mr. Parker, Mitchell Parker, he gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings, holds down the fort. Matt Barnes from there gives up an unearned run in 2/3 of an inning, but Dylan Floro, Kyle Finnegan, they both supply a scoreless inning. Hunter Harvey, he's able to give you a inning, but allows a run along the way. But the big hit in this one, Luis Garcia, 3-run shot off of Tyler Glasnow, his first of the season. CJ Abrams, he would also go deep off of Glasnow, his 4th of the campaign, as old Oppenheimer did not have himself a very good night. He got bombed, giving up 6 runs over the course of 5 innings. See what I did there? As you had from there 2 scoreless innings out of Nick Ramirez and Ricky Venasco in his MLB debut. 2 scoreless innings. So the Dodgers are now 11-8, and the Washington Nationals not looking completely sorry. Right now, your top over team in all of baseball is the Cincinnati Reds, and they were able to play another over on Monday, but they did not get the job done. The Seattle Mariners, who have been not good at the plate to say the least, are rough for 9-3. They take down the Red Legs as one of Frankie Montas makes it 2 innings, and he gives up 5 runs, all of which were earned, including a pair of bombs. Orde Polanco, Mitch Haniger both get their 2nd home run of the season. From there, 1 run given up in 4 innings by Nick Martinez. Not a bad long relief appearance. Buck Farmer from there gives up 3 runs in 2 innings. Meanwhile, Jameer Candelario along Jake Fraley were able to go deep in this one. Candelario, 2nd home run season. Fraley, his first. Fraley goes off of Gabe Spire out of the bullpen, who gives up a run in an inning. And George Kirby, he does allow that home run. 2 runs in total over the course of 6 innings, so held it down there. While Taysom Miller along Taylor Cicado, they were both able to give you a scoreless inning. Big for a Seattle Mariners team that's been scuffling to begin the season at 7-10, but the scuffles of the Miami Marlins are far worse. Our DK now are great to pick. Now is on the San Francisco Giants on the money line, and they get the job done by a count of 4-3. Got down early in this one, 3-0, but it's Miami Marlins bullpen. They have a nearly 6 ERA after Edward Cabrera. He gave a really nice start coming off the injured list. 10 punch-outs, 6 innings of 1-run ball, and then George Soriano lights the game on fire, giving up 3 runs over the course of 2/3 of an inning. Andrew Nardi gets it out of the bullpen, and Brian Hoying was able to give you 2 scoreless innings, but for Miami, they had Avicio Garcia get his 2nd home run of the season, but past that 2nd inning, they did not score at all, as Kyle Harrison settled down after that, giving up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings. You had Ryan Walker, Camilo Duvall combined for 2 scoreless innings, and then one part of Rogers Square delivered a scoreless inning in Tyler Rogers. So the Giants, they continue the misery of the Miami Marlins, who last year they were just so good in 1-run games, and we're starting to see that reversal happen this year. They were 33-14, by the way, in 1-run games a season ago. They started off with the Cleveland Guardians on Patriots Day, taking down the Boston Red Sox 6-0. For the Red Sox, just a rough go of it on offense for them, to say the least, as they scored 0 or 1 runs in now 5 out of their last 11 games, as this was a lockdown performance from Xavier Curry, 5 scoreless innings. Tim Aaron from there, 2 scoreless, and Nick Sandlin, Eli Morgan. They both supply a scoreless inning. You had Will Brandon be able to get his first home run of the season. That comes off of Greg Weissert after you had Cutter Crawford letting a good start. 5 2/3 innings scoreless, and then the schlubs out of the bullpen were not great. Weiser gives up that solo home run in a third of an inning. Brian Bernardino gives up a run in an inning. Josh Winkowski, 2 runs, one of which was earned, give it up in an inning. Chase Anderson gives up 2 runs in his inning of work. So that was less than savory for the Boston Red Sox, but this is very savory for the Baltimore Orioles. They just continue to win games. 7-4, they take down the Minnesota Twins. A rare over for the Twins as they played 9 unders to 6 overs for Minnesota. You had Jose Miranda get his first home run season. That comes off of Cole Irvin, who did give up 2 runs in 4 2/3 innings. Keegan Aiken from there, he goes a third of an inning, giving up 2 runs. But Dylan Tate, Yanier Cano, they combine for 3 scoreless innings, and Craig Kimbrell, he supplies a scoreless inning as well. Meanwhile, for Cleveland, trio of home runs. Gunnar Henderson, 4th home run season. Cedric Mullins, 4th home run of the season. And Ryan O'Hearn is third as Louis Varland. Louis gives up 2 of those home runs, 6 of runs, 4 of which were earned, given up in 5 innings. And then Michael Baumann comes in, allows a solo home run in his 3 innings of work, as the solo home run that he gave up was to Gunnar Henderson. So Orioles stay hot out there. The Philadelphia Phillies, 11 unders to 6 overs as far this season, and they could only muster 2 runs against the Rockies on Monday, but was enough to be able to get the job done. 2-1. The Phillies get the win as Cal Quantrill, good start. 1 run surrendered over the course of 6 innings. He had Jalen Beeks, Nick Mears combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Justin Lawrence a scoreless inning of his own. But Jake Bird gives you the bird as he allows a walk-off single to Christian Pache for an unearned run in the 10th inning. And Michael Tuglia, lone form of offense for the Colorado Rockies. He gets his 4th home run of the campaign. That comes off of Aaron Nola, who gave a good performance, gives up that solo home run, but just 1 run surrendered in 7 1/3 innings. Jose Alvarado, 2/3 of an inning scoreless, and then Jeff Hoffman, Sir Anthony Dominguez. They're both able to supply you with a scoreless inning as well. You saw the Walker, Texas Rangers pull off a rarity for them. They played a 1-0 game against the Detroit Tigers, getting the job done. Tigers now 9 unders, 6 overs, and just 1 push. And Michael Renson, in his first start of the season for the Rangers, I can't say it was sharp. He gave up 5 walks in 5 innings, but didn't allow any runs. From there, Jose Leclerc, 2 scoreless innings. David Robertson, Kirby Yates, they will supply a scoreless inning. And for the Texas Rangers, not a lot doing on offense, but they got 1 run in 6 1/3 innings off of Reese Olson, and it was enough. Alex Faedo, 2 scoreless innings. Tyler Holton, 2/3 of an inning scoreless, and for the Tigers, 0 of 8 with men in scoring position. So that was rough. It has been rough for the Blue Jays to be able to generate runs, but they're actually not the top under team in all of baseball. That'd be the Yankees. 5 overs, 11 unders, and a push, and they played another one on Monday with the Blue Jays getting it done by a count of 3-1. Luis Eel, talk about him being Rick the Wild Thing Vaughn 2.0. 5 innings pitch. He lost 3 hits. Not bad. 7 walks in 5 innings. Yeah, that was interesting to say the least. Dennis Santana from there, a scoreless inning. Ron Metanacchio gives you 2 scoreless, and for the Toronto Blue Jays, they go 1 of 10 with men in scoring position, but it was enough for Chris Bassett. He had the Yankees hook, line, and sinker. 6 1/3 innings of giving up a 1 run. Chad Green, Yimi Garcia both supply a scoreless inning, and Tim Meza was able to give you a pair of outs on the bullpen, scoreless as well. The Oakland AAAs do not cover the run line on this day, as they have not failed to cover the run line in 3 out of their last 4 games. The St. Louis Cardinals get a 3-1 win as Sonny Gray, 6 scoreless innings. He was great. Jojo Romero gives up a solo home run in his inning of work as Esteri Ruiz, welcome back to the big leagues. First home run of the campaign after he was very unrightfully demoted. Andrew Kittredge, Ryan Helsley, they both supply a scoreless inning, and for the Oakland A's, they had Ross Stripling go out there and gave up quite a bit of contact. Gave up 3 runs over the course of 5 2/3 innings, 6 hits in total. From there, Michael Kelly, 2 1/3 innings scoreless. Austin Adams, a scoreless inning, and the A's, top 6 team in the big leagues with regards to bullpen ERA. Too bad their offense couldn't give them much of anything. Not a lot of offense in this one either. The Chicago Cubs, they get the win over the Arizona Diamondbacks by a count of 3-2 as Ben Brown is right now looking like a baller for the Cubs. 1 run surrendered in 6 innings. Great start there. You have Drew Smiley give up a run in an inning, but Hector Neris, Luke Little, they come up big with a scoreless inning, and Keegan Thompson, 2 scoreless innings in the 9th and 10th inning, and Matt Bush. Gotta love Bush. This is not Bush Light. This is Bush regular. 6th home run of the season, 5th home run in his last 5 games. Now, the Cubs left 12 men on base. They go 2 of 14 with men in scoring position, but they do just enough in the 11th inning to be able to find a way to be able to get the job done. Meanwhile, for Arizona, Merrill Kelly does allow that home run to Bush in his 5 innings of work, and the bullpen wasn't bad. Kevin Ginkel gives up a run in an inning. You had Kyle Nelson come in for a scoreless inning along with Ryan Thompson. Miguel Castro, Joel Mantiply, they combine for a scoreless inning, and then Ben Jarvis allows an unearned run in 2 innings of work. So the Arizona Diamondbacks just could not get a lot going on offense as was very much an underwhelming day in baseball on Monday, headlined by the fact that the White Sox get completely blanked by the Kansas City Royals, 2-0 the final. This was actually not a bad start from Nick Nastrini. He gives up 2 runs in 5 innings in his MLB debut. That includes a home run to Vinny Pasquantino, his third home run of the campaign. From there, the bullpen did their part. Joy Leisure, Stephen Wilson, Michael Kopech, Dominic Leon, they all supply a scoreless inning, but for the White Sox, they just could not hit Seth Lugo. 7 scoreless innings. From there, Chris Cichon, James McArthur, they both supply a scoreless inning, and the White Sox 2-14 and incapable of generating runs right now. Very, very sad to say the least, as for the Atlanta Braves, they have been one of your top over teams in all baseball thus far this season, though this was a under game, as they're now 10 overs, 4 unders, and a push, 6-1. The Atlanta Braves get the job done. Darius Vines got into a little bit of a sticky wicket, gives up 3 walks, 4 hits, and 4 2/3 innings, but allows just 1 run, and from there, the bullpen was tremendous. Aaron Bummer, Pierce Johnson combined for 2 scoreless innings. AJ Minter 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Jesse Chavez a scoreless inning, and for Houston, Spencer Arrighetti looked much better in this performance than he did the first time around. In his first career outing against the Royals, gave up 7 runs in 3 innings, so giving up 2 runs in 4 innings against the Atlanta Braves, marked improvement, but Josh Hader gives up 4 runs in a third of an inning. The rest of the bullpen, that was actually fine. Brian Abreu, Rafael Montero, they combined for 3 scoreless innings. Seth Martinez, a scoreless inning. Brandon Belock, 2 outside the bullpen scoreless, but not a lot doing for the Houston Astros on offense on this night, as they have been very touch and go with regards to their bats, to say the least. And right now, your top over team in all of baseball, that would be the Milwaukee Brewers. They are 11 overs to 4 unders. Actually, the Reds, 12 overs to 4 unders. They are number 1, but Brewers are number 2. They play another over, but they fall to the Slam Diego Padres by a count of 7-3. Joe Musgrove not necessarily sharp in this one. 3 runs surrendered in 6 innings, giving up a home run to Jackson Chirrillo, third home run of the campaign, but Joe Ross was worse, giving up 7 runs, 6 of which were earned in 4 2/3 innings. From there, the bullpen held down the fort, as he had 2 1/3 innings scoreless from Diego Vieira and Jared Cronin. He was able to come in for 2 scoreless innings as well, but for the Padres, their bullpen was having this on lockdown. Stephen Kolek, Robert Suarez, they combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Yel de los Santos, he was able to supply a scoreless inning of his own. And then you did see the Tampa Bay Rays fall to the LA Angels on Monday by a count of 7-3, as the Angels have been a bit of an all-over-the-place team as of the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays entered into this game with the worst bullpen ERA in the big leagues, and that continued. Zach Eflin, pretty Eflin good, 6 1/3 innings scoreless. Jason Adam, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. And then Phil Maton gives up 5 runs in an inning, including a home run, and Kevin Kelly 2 runs in an inning, giving up a home run. Going deep for the LA Angels. Taylor Ward is 6th home run of the season. Mike Trout is 7th. All players not named Trout and Ward have combined 4 home runs for the Angels, and these 2 guys have a combined 13. So, go figure. Top heaviness for the Angels. That is back in full force even without Ohtani. Meanwhile, Patrick Sandoval, he gives up 1 run over the course of 5 innings. Adam Simber, Luis Garcia, Matt Moore, Carlos Estevez, they all come into the game. Matt Moore does allow 2 runs in his inning of work, including a home run to Harold Ramirez, first home run of the season. Other 3 guys, they provide a scoreless inning of their own. And if you're taking a look at the New York Metropolitans, well, congratulations. You got to win there. The Mets, they pull it off against the Pittsburgh Pirates by a count of 6-3 for the Buccos. Martin Perez, not a great start, not a terrible start. Gives up 3 runs in 5 2/3 innings, but Aroldis Chapman, where have we seen this before in New York? Gives up 3 runs in a third of an inning. Hunter Stratton, along with Ronci Contreras, they combined for a scoreless inning. And Colin Holderman was able to give you a scoreless inning, but for the New York Mets, they were able to do a solid job of being able to provide Adrian Duncombe, Doogie Howser some support. 5 walks for Howser in 5 1/3 innings, but just 2 hits, 2 runs allowed. Drew Smith from there gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning, but Adam Ottavino, Edwin Diaz, Brooks Raley, they all provide a scoreless inning. And if you're looking at what we're seeing trend-wise in baseball right now, it has for the most part been a little bit of an over season, but you did see it yesterday in Major League Baseball. 9 unders to 6 overs. So it was a little bit of a underwhelming day out there in Major League Baseball. And if you're taking a look at the road teams, they went 10-5 yesterday as well. So they were absolutely killing it on the money line. And season to date, road teams are hitting at 54.2%, 135 and 114, and favorites, they're hitting at a 58% clip, 143 and 103 on the money line. But as we saw with the Dodgers, if you're laying all that juice, you're not breaking a profit right now. Meanwhile, in terms of the totals this season, 49% of games have gone under, 51% to the over, 123 overs to 118 unders. And in case you were wondering, in games that have not went to extra innings, 107 overs to 106 unders. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Monday. And let's take a look at the Tuesday card and some of the surprises of the early season next with Chris Cichon. He does great work over at WTOP Sports along with USA Today. He joins me next on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast, and it is great to be joined by this man. As Chris Cichon, he does great work over at WTOP Sports. I know you're able to catch his articles, whether it be hockey, baseball, you name it, he does it over at USA Today. He does an amazing job taking a look at this great game of baseball that we all know and love out there in the D.C. area. You're able to catch him on Twitter/X at The Big Cheese Show. That is CHEE on Chi before show. And Chris, it is always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Greg, such a pleasure to be joining you. Yeah, when I first started covering baseball over a decade ago, the Washington Nationals were the hot team here in the DMV as they were coming about and eventually did end up winning that World Series in 2019. But right now, here where I live in Maryland, it's all about the Orioles, and they had themselves a big-time win on Sunday. Colton Cowser getting it done, and yeah, we'll see how they do against a Twins bunch that you and I know talked about on the VSiN program that has just been abysmal, to say the least, at the plate.
Yeah, they certainly have been abysmal, to say the least. And in terms of the Orioles versus Twins game, as a hot team out there is Baltimore, I do think that this one is going to be very interesting as we've got Grayson Rodriguez on the bump for Baltimore against Chris Paddock for Minnesota. And I take a look at this game with the Orioles being about minus 160, minus 165. I think that number is relatively correct. I think that Baltimore should be able to get the job done, but I do take a look at this total of 8.5, and I'm not sure what you're feeling about this game, but I'm looking at this one, and I think that Grayson Rodriguez just continues to do what he does, and I've honestly liked what I've seen out of Chris Paddock as well. This is a game where I do like a little bit of an under.
Yeah, I think maybe if you were looking at an over, it's because you're factoring in the weather, and it is warm here now, and the ball could be flying out, but I still am always going to trust in this Baltimore bullpen more oftentimes than not. I know they don't have the mountain Felix Bautista this year. And Yennier Cano, I mean, I watched him in the Sunday of the Women's National Championship game alongside, and I'm watching Yennier Cano, and I'm like, man, those pitches are not totally dropping off the table like they did last year, or just enough tape is out now. But still, Grayson Rodriguez, this is a guy, we saw him shut down the Angels to start the season, 1 run, 6 innings pitched, Taylor Ward hitting a home run off of him, whatever. You and I have talked about his success last season in the second half of the season, 2.58 ERA. Only Kyle Bradish, who was hurt, had a better ERA there. So, yeah, I would certainly take a look at the Orioles in this spot. And if you're looking at an under, I don't necessarily see a path where the Twins are going to be scoring a lot of runs. I looked at the numbers, and Ryan Jeffers and Alex Kirilloff were the only 2 guys entering Monday with an batting average over 200. I mean, it feels like every year, the start of the season, it's like, oh, the baseballs are flying out, or Kenley Jansen's pointing out this year that he's having a hard time gripping it. But there are some overs, but then some of these teams here, like the Twins, when you lose Correa, you lose Royce Lewis, you have Byron Buxton not hitting. Just where is the offensive production going to come from? And when your bullpen's breaking down, are we going to see Griffin Jacks have a bad outing again? But yeah, I'd certainly see where you're at with the under, just because I think Grayson Rodriguez is going to have no problem with this Twins lineup.
Yeah, Grayson Rodriguez, 15 straight starts dating back to the 2023 season, in which he's given up 3 earned runs or fewer. Guy has been absolutely dealing. So that is certainly someone that I'm going to be willing to bank on. And to your point about home runs on a per-at-bat basis, has actually been down this past season rather than up. So I certainly don't think that there's been any tampering with the baseball or anything like that. Just a lot of guys in general giving up contact, and that has been leading to a lot of runs in these games. As Chris Cichon does great work over at WTOP Sports. He is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, and a team of intrigue as well as a team from my neck of the woods, the Milwaukee Brewers. They actually entered into Monday the top scoring team in all of baseball, but now they are home underdogs against Dylan Cease and the San Diego Padres with Wade Miley on the mound, and total of 8.5. How do you take a look at this sort of a game? Because we've been noticing these high strikeout guys like Dylan Cease. Yes, they're able to get strikeouts, but these are guys I think get a little bit overvalued in the market. And we were just talking about the bullpen woes. If Dylan Cease gives up a lot of walks, jacks up his pitch count, I think that could spell doomsday for the Padres.
Really like the Brewers in this spot. Second youngest roster in Major League Baseball. a mix of veteran presence, guys like Willie Adames, but Pat Murphy has talked about instilling confidence in some of his pitchers as well, too, as well as some of the hitters. And I like Bryce Terang. I know he just had himself a 3-hit day recently. So to me, this is a Brewers squad that I would be looking to back, and they look like they have, when you take 2 of 3 from Baltimore going into Camden Yards and you score 11 runs twice, that's impressive. I mean, and even against Corbin Burns basically was, outstanding in his beginning couple of starts, and to me, still had that cutter working, but the Brewers were able to work counts. I mean, you can get to any great pitcher if you're able to foul enough stuff off and get them into 3-1 counts, and that's ultimately what the Brewers did. The Orioles just outlasted them on Sunday based on, again, Colton Cowser, second shortest odds to win the AL Rookie of the Year I saw on Monday morning. So this is a Brewers bunch that has just been taking care of business. Started off the year, I was losing money because I was betting the Mets against the Brewers to start the season, and I was on the wrong end of that one. I mean, I don't know how deep they go this year. I mean, I've always been a Freddie Peralta guy, but we'll see. Their bullpen, they lost some pieces, obviously, with Hader, but they've been sustainable for years past. So I would like the Brewers in this spot, and I'm interested to see kind of how they play the rest of the season. Yeah, is Pittsburgh really a team that's going to be sustainable in this division? I was diving into some of the numbers with Jared Jones today. Yes, he's got good stuff, but he's given up a lot of home runs. He's not giving up a lot of hard contact. So I don't really know where to go with the Pirates yet. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun group with this Brewers team to watch. I know that you watched them quite closely, being that you're from Wisconsin. And, yeah, impressive so far, no doubt.
Yeah, I was not expecting what we've seen out of these young guys, and Christian Yelich looking like the Christian Yelich of old. He was in a hiatus the last few years with regards to his production, has certainly been producing this year. So that has been good to see, and it's always good to see Chris Cichon on this show right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And just in terms of surprises for the season thus far, no doubt about it, for me, the Milwaukee Brewers and their offense, that is towards the top of the list. But whether it be to the positive or to the negative, whether it be a team or maybe a few players, what has really stood out to you for the first 2.5 weeks of the season that maybe you weren't expecting?
I was not expecting Toronto to have Vlad Guerrero Jr. hitting around 200. I mean, Toronto's got the names, but Kevin Gossman's not necessarily performing well to start the season here. I mean, George Springer, you like to have him as an leadoff guy, but, it's just an older group now with this team, and Bichette's not having that strong of a season. I mean, Alejandro Kirk has been a disappointment since the start of last year. Kevin Kiermaier, I mean, talk about a guy. I understand you acquire him to play defense, but when he comes to the plate, you basically know he's going to be an automatic out. And yeah, I don't know if Jose Barrios and this staff is going to be able to take them very far. So disappointed with the Blue Jays. The Tampa Bay Rays, look, they play great money ball. I just don't know that they're deep enough either to really make any sort of a run this season. I mean, Zach Eflin's a strong starter. They've just dealt with so many injuries over the years. I mean, Rasmussen and Shane Baz. I mean, how much can they really handle? Yandy Diaz is a tank, but he doesn't really hit for power. I just don't know that the Rays have enough, and they don't have any sort of a home field advantage. Whether you think that's any consolation or any big time thing or not in Major League Baseball to be home. I mean, the bottom of the inning, obviously, but the fans don't really show up there. I've been there numerous times. I think the Trop's great. I know I'm on an island when I say that, but they don't really have the home field advantage. So I would say the Rays and Blue Jays both being disappointing. And then watching the Guardians on Sunday and then on Patriots Day against the Red Sox. Red Sox only have, 3 hits? They're a deep team. I mean, they can overcome a guy like Andres Jimenez going 0 for 4 on Monday because the Naylor Bros mash. And, they're getting good performances out of a Curry to Monday pitching well. So I'm surprised with how well the Guardians have been, I guess.
Yeah, I've been surprised by that as well. You knew that with the Cleveland Guardians, they'd be able to move the line a little bit in terms of just raw contact, but they're doing a better job of being able to go yard this season with the Naylor brothers. Jose Ramirez is able to give you some good production, and that bullpen is just so gosh darn deep. So I'm right there with you. And those are a few good teams that have really been standing out to me thus far this season. And I'm so glad that you mentioned the Tampa Bay Rays as well, because one pitcher that I always get a little bit conflicted by is Aaron Civale, and he is going to be on the bump on Tuesday against the LA Angels. That's about a minus 145 to a minus 155 favorite. Total is 8. I'm not sure how you read Aaron Civale, but it feels like every single year his ERA is either a point higher or a point lower than his fielding independent. He never gets the desired result, the result that he should. He's either super lucky or he's super unlucky going up against someone in Jose Soriano who began the season in the LA Angels bullpen, and I just don't know if I'm willing to trust in a guy like that with an LA Angels bullpen that to say that it's suspect would be very polite.
Yeah, and Civale hasn't pitched a whole lot of games at the Trop, but I know at least before the start he was making a couple of starts ago against the Rangers. Going into that one, because I wrote about the game for USA Today, he had nearly a 6 ERA, 5.83 ERA in 6 career games at the Trop. But he can be effective, like when he took on the Blue Jays this year, only allowed a couple of singles, did give up a solo home run, got off to a good start this year. So to me, when I'm looking at Aaron Civale, the Rays is a weird ballpark. I've heard different pitchers over the years give interviews on MLB Network and whatnot and talk about how sometimes hitters have a difficult time seeing the pitches with that weird dome there in the Trop, or sometimes the pitchers themselves don't necessarily have a great feel for it in there. So maybe that's the case with Civale when we're talking about this Angels group. Maybe Anthony Rendon has heard enough of the comments about how he's washed up, and I mean, he set himself up for it, basically talking about how in the offseason he wasn't passionate about the game and whatever he said. Just not a great look. If you feel that way, fine, just keep it to yourself, in my opinion. But, the Angels themselves, offensively, are they going to be strong enough to slug it out with this Rays team? I'm not really thinking so. I still really like Tampa probably in this spot if I'm going to be betting this game. Randy Arozarena is still obviously a big-time threat. No Brandon Lau in this lineup, but that could maybe be addition by subtraction because he's just not somebody. I watched him in the 2-hole for Tampa, and I'm like, this is your 2-hitter, Brandon Lau, and he's dealing with the back injury now. And, Isaac Paredes is somebody I would prefer to be, and Harold Ramirez. Those guys are like, I know that they can at least match the baseball. So yeah, ultimately, I think I would be liking the Tampa Bay Rays in the spot. It'll be juicy on the money line, so I'll have to try to figure out a way to maybe reduce that.
Yep, absolutely. That might need to be a run line play because the LA Angels, with that bullpen, they can give up runs aplenty, though. As we know, it's been a little bit dicey this far this season with this Rays team on offense as well. And Chris, we do have ourselves a nice slate for this Tuesday. All 30 teams are in action, and just want to get a thought from you as to a few games that you're going to be taking a look at, whether it be games that you're going to be betting on or just in general, a game that you want to see a little bit more from because you don't know whether to make heads or tails out of a team or a pitcher.
So the Big Chi baseball bet of the day that I do for WTOP, I have picked already the New York Metropolitans to get it done against the Pittsburgh Pirates. It does make me a little bit nervous to do so, again, given that I think Jared Jones has been a solid starter. But if you're taking a look at hard contact rate so far, out of 79 pitchers entering Monday qualified, he has the second highest hard hit rate behind Dane Dunning. So I think that the Mets bats can get to him. Pete Alonso, he's streaky, but with 6 home runs, at least entering Monday, this certainly could be a spot where he tees off against Pittsburgh. And Jose Quintana, I think, can pitch effectively enough against this Pittsburgh group. Look, they've been a nice story. I guess Andrew McCutchen hitting 300 home runs. But ultimately, it's not a lineup that I look at and that I fear tremendously. I mean, Brian Reynolds, he's okay. He's got the big contract now. So I would say that, yeah, I like the Mets in this spot here. Brandon Nimmo delivers at the plate as well, too. And you have McNeil kind of starting to heat up. So I certainly like the Mets there in that spot on Tuesday. Atlanta, I think you highlighted this, Greg. I was listening to your program. I really loved Hunter Brown from the Astros, so it's like I almost didn't want to hear it and believe it. And then his last outing, he absolutely got torched, and he's still going out there against the Atlanta Braves. I mean, Reynaldo Lopez has been pretty solid to start the year. What am I missing? And Atlanta, I'm seeing, at least on Monday night, is at a decent price money line-wise. So, yeah, I would love Atlanta in this spot considering Brown struggles and Houston struggles as a whole to start the season. I'm always going to like Atlanta more oftentimes than not against any other team, given how strong their lineup is. And then if I'm going to be including a third team in like maybe a money line parlay situation, it's definitely got to be the O's, just given how, they got to figure out how they're going to get some of these guys regular playing time. Like a guy like Ramon Urias, he's hitting sub 200, but is that because he basically knows every at bat he comes to the plate? It's if I screw up here, one of these young guys are going to be taking my spot. And because he was a solid hitter for them last year. But basically my point is, and you've highlighted this so many times, just some greater than the whole parts, or however that phrase goes.
Oh, that's greater than the sum of its parts.
Thank you for helping me out. That's Baltimore, still the case. So I like them to win. Those three teams are the ones that I'm really looking at on the Tuesday slate as of right now.
I think all three are relatively solid looks as well. I agree with you on that front, and always have to love those whole is greater than the sum of its parts teams. And you do make this show whole when you join me, Chris. You do an amazing job over at WTOP Sports. On top of that, I know you're doing absolutely excellent work taking a look at this great game that we all know and love, along with hockey over at USA Today as well. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people are able to follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yes, the Big Chi baseball bet of the day comes out Tuesdays and Fridays at 103.5 WTOP in Washington, D.C. And USA Today, I'm writing for them basically every day with the NHL playoffs upon us and with Major League Baseball in full swing. With the weather heating up, hopefully the baseballs start flying out here more so too, because I like to see the offense and a pitcher's dual tool every now and then. So yeah, it's been great with baseball, great with hockey, and great joining you, Greg. Thank you so much.
And it's always great having you aboard, Chris. You do such an excellent job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love. We always get a little bit smarter when Chris joins the show, so big thanks to him for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It is always a pleasure to be able to get Chris Cichon aboard. He does an amazing job over at WTOP Sports. Coupled with that, USA Today, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know that he's also getting geared up for the NHL playoffs. For those of you that are hockey fans, every single time he joins this show, he lends such great insights, and it's always great to be able to get him aboard. So, big thanks, Chris, for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at GNet_D1, and we are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom, and then the order with the National League games, interleague games, what have you, is time order. So keeps things very nice, neat, clean, and easy. So without further ado, let's dive in on this first game of 9:51, 9:52 on the card. It is the San Francisco Giants on the road facing off against the Miami Marlins. Ryan Weathers goes for the fish, and Jordan Hicks is on the bump for the Giants. Giants are between minus 132 to minus 140 favorites. Between plus 118 to plus 122 is your number on Miami. 8.5 to 8 is a total on the 8. Over is minus 115, under is minus 105 on the 8.5, under is minus 120, and the over, that is even money. And with Ryan Weathers, he's been actually relatively solid here for the Miami Marlins. Had a nice spring training. First start out, I forget if that was against the LA Angels or the other team that they played very early on, got shelled, but past that has been rock solid. Has helped engineer one of the wins for the team when they took on the New York Yankees, and I do like the way that he's progressed. Was looking like a little bit of a bust early on throughout his career. He's gotten his swing and miss stuff up a little bit. Now, you do fear the 8 walks in his 14 innings thus far this season, but you know what? Holding down the fort. Meanwhile, Jordan Hicks has really looked good as a starter. He's not getting as many strikeouts as he once did, but man, 3 walks in 18 innings has lent really good length, going 6+ innings in each of his last 2 starts. Big for a San Francisco Giants bullpen that has been scuffling recently. They are in the bottom 10 in the big leagues with regards to bullpen ERA. A lot of the guys that were so rock solid last season, either they're injured or they're dealing with injuries. You saw Rogers squared and Tyler Rogers. You've been able to get Logan Ropp to be able to give you some good innings, but going to be without Camilo Duvall after he threw north of 25 pitches yesterday, but it still is much better than the Miami Marlins bullpen is. For the Marlins bullpen, they have lost a lot of pieces from past years, and they're just not great in general. They should have maintained guys like Steven Okert and company. You've had Kelvin Fletcher come in. He's someone that I do like for the team. Brian Hoying has actually been your best relief piece among guys that have seen like north of 5 innings thus far this season. But the likes of Matt Andrees, Birch Smith, Sixto Sanchez, Andrew Nardi, they have been absolutely terrible. And for the Miami Marlins now, they've got Jake Berger dealing with an injury, and that's really their main form of power. This Miami Marlins team in the bottom 5 in the big leagues with regards to runs per game. Nick Flash Gordon has been able to give you 3 home runs, but that's it. This team, they just have a few guys that move the line, like Tim Anderson, Brian De La Cruz, Luis Ariz. All 3 of them are hitting at least a 278. You've got one other player that is active in this roster that's hitting above a 214. That is just absolutely terrible. And for the San Francisco Giants, yeah, they've had their issues, but that said, they're averaging nearly about 5.2 runs per game away from home. Michael Conforto's hitting nearly a 304 home runs this far this season. Therio Estrada, Matt Chapman do need to do a better job of getting on base. Less than a 250 on base, but 3 home runs out of both of them. Jorge Soler has been able to give you 3 bombs. You've been able to have Lamont Wade Jr. be able to move the line. So at the very least for the Giants, they've got some options at the plate. And I do think that for Ryan Weathers, he turns a relatively good start, but I do think that the bullpen completely blows it on him, and Miami just not producing a lot of runs in general. So did set my total at 8.2 and an 8.5. Looking at the under, max out was 1 to lay with the Giants as a minus 132. We are just there. So looking at the Giants money line and the under 953, 954 on the betting board, it is the Colorado Rockies on the road facing off against the Philadelphia Phillies. Ranger Suarez is on the bump for the Phils, and Austin Gomber hopes to not get Gombered up for the Rockies. And Rockies are massive underdogs, anywhere between plus 195 to plus 206, anywhere between minus 228 and minus 240. That number on the Phils, 8.5 is the total. Unders between minus 110 to a minus 120. The overs between even and minus 110. For that Phillies run line, find that between minus 110 to a minus 115 would be one to lay up to a minus 115. Set my number at a minus 117. Ranger Suarez actually was not so great at home last season, north of a 5 ERA, but he has looked much better in his home starts recently, and his swing and miss stuff this far this season has been up a little bit. 19 strikeouts in 17 innings. He's reduced the walks. It just looks like he's found a little bit of a different approach as a pitcher in general, and he's been getting better and better with every start. So I like seeing that. And Ross and Gomber, he on the road has been a little bit of a nightmare, north of a 5 ERA last season when he was away from home. Has given up 3 home runs in 14 and 2/3 innings. Honestly, the last 2 starts have not been bad. Combined 4 runs surrendered in 10 innings against the Diamondbacks and the Rays. You'll take that if you're the Colorado Rockies, because there's really nobody else on the roster that can pitch. Victor Vodnik is right now your top guy out there in the bullpen. Tyler Kinley's not too bad either, but Justin Lawrence, Jake Bird, Jalen Beeks, these guys just are not holding down the fort. And for the Colorado Rockies, you're just not getting a lot out of this team away from home in terms of just moving the line, getting on base, because at home, this is a Rockies team that last season averaged about 5.35 runs per game, more like 3.65 away from home with a batting average dip of about 40 points. I fully expect the same this season. On the road, Ryan McMahon has been great. He's been able to supply the team with a 440 on base. Charlie Blackmon has moved the line. He's been able to give you about a 323 average, but that's it. It's a Rockies team that they've currently got 7 home runs in 10 road games as far this season, and you got a lot of guys that have been scuffling as well, like having about a 200 batting average out of Nolan Jones. Meanwhile, for the Philadelphia Phillies, they've had some struggles as well. You need to be getting a little bit more out of the likes of Bryce Harper, who's sitting right around the Mendoza line of about a 200. Other than that 3 home run game, he has literally done nothing. You've got Brandon Marsh, Kyle Schwarber, who've supplied 3 or 4 home runs apiece. Schwarber starting to move the line a little bit. Brandon Marsh, he's giving you about a 290 average. And Trey Turner has been able to bust out and be able to get on base for the team. Need a little bit more out of the likes of Alec Boehm, Nick Castellanos, Juan Rojas. These guys are just not giving you a lot now. Rojas is out there for his glove. He is not out there for his bat, but we'd like to see them be able to pick it up a little bit. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, the bullpen got off to a bit of a rough start to the season. We've seen that quite a bit from the Philadelphia Phillies, but I do think that Sir Anthony Dominguez, Jose Alvarado, they're going to start to pick it up. Gregory Soto has been relatively solid on that bullpen thus far this season. And another guy that I've really liked for this team, how about what Junior Marte has been able to do? He's been pretty locked down, pretty solid for this team. So I do think that the Rockies are going to be in for a very, very long year. I do think that the Phillies are going to be able to get to Gomber, and this rough bullpen, I did set my total at an 8.8, and I'm willing to lay the run line with the Philadelphia Phillies. So looking at this 8.5 over, and I'm going to be looking at that Phillies run line. 955, 956 on the betting board. It is the Pittsburgh Pirates. They walk the plank and hit the road to face off against the New York Mets, as Jose Quintana is on the bump for the Mets. Jared Jones is on the bump for the Pirates. Not sure why this game is off the board. I thought it was pretty known that Jones was going to get the start, but nobody has a number up for this game. But I've got my handicap anything of a plus 132 or higher, I'm looking at the Buccos. Minus 130 or less, I'll be looking at the Mets. And semi-total at an 8.1, 8 or less, I'm going to be taking a look at the over, 8.5 or higher. The under for Jose Quintana. Last few seasons, he's been very much a pitcher contact guy. And thus far this season, that is exactly what he's done. He needs to work on the walks. He's given up 8 walks in 15 and 2/3 innings last season. He's more around about 2.9 walks per 9 innings, but hard contact hasn't necessarily been too much of an issue thus far. And for Jones, he has come up from the minors and he has really gotten the strikeouts. 25 punch-outs in 18 innings thus far this season, but he does miss location, and when he makes those mistakes, he gets hit pretty hard. He has given up a pair of home runs in each of his last 2 starts. Fortunately for him, he's been able to mitigate the damage. 3 runs or fewer surrendered in each of his first 3 career starts, despite the fact that he has given up 4 home runs in that time span. So that's something to watch out for. And for Jones, he is backed up by a relatively solid bullpen. Aroldis Chapman, David Bednar. These guys are relatively solid, and when you get Ryan Baruchi back, it's going to be all the better. Like what I've seen out of Hunter Stratton, Jose Hernandez, and for the New York Mets, Edwin Diaz is by far the best closer in this game. But at the same time, being able to get there, it's a little bit of an adventure. Adam Ottavino, Brooks Raley, they're not great, they're not terrible, and that's a lot of this bullpen. Outside of Diaz, it's not great, not terrible. And for the New York Mets, the offense has been all over the place for this team. They will give you like 2 runs one day, they'll give you 8 the next. Pete Alonso has been amazing. He has supplied 6 home runs for the team. He's giving you about a 340 on base. He's doing his part, but right now got Jeff McNeil, Francisco Lindor, DJ Stewart, all hitting a 205 or lower. Brandon Nimmo's not been giving you too much at the plate, though the on-base percentage still not bad, and the Mets have been one of the best teams at being able to draw walks this far this season, but they're not giving you a lot in terms of walloping power and just putting the ball in play in general. Meanwhile, for the Pittsburgh Pirates, it's been a inconsistent team here over the last few days. For the Pirates, they have scored 3 runs or fewer now 2 out of their last 3 games and in 4 out of their last 7, but for the Pirates, I do think that they're going to be able to get some nice consistent production out of Brian Reynolds. He's their main constant, 355 on-base, pair of home runs thus far this season. It's the guys like Onyel Cruz, Jack Swiniski, Henry Davis. Can these guys be consistent? Because you've got a lot of star power there, but at the same time, are these guys going to, for a 162-game season, be able to day in, day out, be able to give you a nice, good effort? I do think that for the Pirates, they're going to be able to get a relatively solid start out of Jones, but I do have my question marks still with the bats, even though Ed Olivares has been looking very good recently for this team. But like the form that the Mets are in recently, and I do think that for the Pirates, they might be starting to strum just a little bit with regards to bats, and I think that they might have a tough time with a pitch of contact guy in Quintana. So I'm going to be willing to lay up to minus 130 with the Mets, plus 132 or higher, looking at the Buccos, and then 8 or less, I'm on the over, 8.5 or higher, the under, 957, 958 on the betting board. It is the San Diego Padres on the road facing up against the Milwaukee Brewers. Dylan Cease goes for the Padres, and Wade Miley hopes to have a party out in Milwaukee for the Brewers, and the Brewers are an underdog between plus 105 to plus 113, anywhere between minus 120 to minus 125. That price on the Padres, 8.5 is the total, over and under both at minus 110. Needed anything north of plus 110 to be able to take a shot on the Brewers. Plus 112 or higher was willing to take an opportunity, and seeing the plus 113 that I've got at circa, I'm going to be on the Brewers on the money line. Wade Miley, very much a pitcher contact guy, and I do think that there's going to be regression coming for Wade Miley last year. He posted up a ERA of a 3.14 with a fielding impediment that was darn near a 1.5 higher. He was giving up darn near about 2.8, 2.9 walks per 9 innings, got no strikeouts at all, and he was very fortunate on balls in play. Meanwhile, Dylan Cease, he does an amazing job of being able to get swings and misses. These are 2 polar opposite pitchers. For Cease, last few seasons, he's been registering about 11 punch-outs per 9 innings, but when he was over with the Chicago White Sox the last few seasons, was giving up about 4 walks per 9 innings, and as far this season, through 3 starts, 16 and 2/3 innings, has given up 6 walks. I do think that that could be the undoing of the San Diego Padres, a Padres unit that they're in the bottom 12 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You've had Aniel De Los Santos, Wandy Peralta be relatively solid for the team. Both of these guys had sub 3.5 ERAs and were off-season pickups as they lost Josh Hader in the offseason. Stephen Kolek is someone I like in this bullpen as well. Want to avoid Johnny Brito, and after last year, Tom Cosgrove was amazing in this bullpen. Not quite the same results thus far this season. Meanwhile, for the Milwaukee Brewers, you've got Joe Payamps, Elvis Figueroa, Abner Uribe in the back half of games. Very, very good to say the least. Jared Koenig is someone that they're giving a little bit of a shot to as well. Brian Hudson has been able to hold it down. Really like this Brewers bullpen. I think that they're a top 5 bullpen in the big leagues. And going into Monday, the Brewers were actually your number 1 team in all of baseball in terms of runs scored. Do I think that there's going to be regression? Absolutely. Do I think that I probably undervalued the Brewers lineup coming into the season. Also, absolutely. But for the Milwaukee Brewers, it's been incredible what we've seen out of Christian Yelich. He looks like the Christian Yelich of old, 5+ home runs. He did get a little bit of a day off yesterday, so do want to be mindful of that. But Willie Adames, Sal Frelick, Bryce Terang, Blake Perkins, all these guys are hitting north of a 290 right now. And then you've got Joey Ortiz, who's been able to give you some nice results as well. Jackson Chourio, he's going to be able to pick it up sooner rather than later. And for the Padres, you've got Ha-Seong Kim, who's been a little bit of a disappointment thus far this season after a nice year last year, but you've had Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr. in the middle of the lineup, be able to supply some boom. Machado, after a little bit of a rough start to the season, he's starting to get on base a little bit more. Tatis Jr., 4+ home runs out of him, but Xander Bogaerts just not living up to that contract right now. Hasn't provided a lot of pop this season, hitting just a 210. Jackson Merrill, though, he has been tremendous as a rookie. I do take a look at this ordeal, and I do think that the Padres should be the slightest of slight favorites, but I just have the fear that Dylan Cease issues too many walks. The Brewers jump on that Padres bullpen and find a way to be able to get the job done. So getting plus 112 or higher, going to be taking a look at the Brewers on the money line, and did some I told at 8.6, so here at the 8.5. I also like the over. 959, 960 on the betting board. The Arizona Diamondbacks play the Chicago Cubs. Kyle Hendricks, the professor, is on the bump for the Cubs, and Tommy Henry is on the bump for the Diamondbacks. 10 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to minus 115. We open up at 9.5, by the way, and with the Snakes there between minus 118 to minus 125, and between plus 105 to plus 110 is your number on the Cubs. And this is an ordeal where I'm going to be taking a look at the under. I set my total at 9.8. Personally, I would have rather had a 9.5 over rather than a 10 under, but that said, 10 is just getting up a little bit too lofty because while Kyle Hendricks has been terrible, north of a 10 ERA, north of an 8 fielding independent, he was quite lucky on balls in play a season ago. He's not as bad as shown to be thus far this season. He's given up 5 home runs in 12 and 2/3 innings, and while I thought that there was going to be a regression from last year, this is just a little bit unreal. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, it's been impressive what they've done on offense thus far this season. Top 8 team with regards to runs scored, and you've right now got a pair of guys that have been able to do a nice job with the trio of home runs. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, Christian Walker, both of these guys supplying north of a 345 on base, and Lourdes Gurriel is up to 4 bombs, about a 350 on base, and Eugenio Suarez, he's been able to give you a little bit of pop as well, and he's doing a better job of getting on base than he did with Seattle and Cincinnati in recent years, and they're doing this with Corbin Carroll, not necessarily giving you a lot. Guys like Blaze Alexander and company have been good, and for the Chicago Cubs, they've got nice righty-lefty platoon splits. This team is doing it at all angles, and Michael Busch has now hit a home run in 5 straight games. He's up to 6 on the campaign, hitting above a 300. That's been big with Cody Bellinger in an almighty funk. He's been able to supply this team with a pair of home runs, but hitting below the Mendoza line of a 200. You've got Ian App, Christopher Morel, Dansby Swanson, all in between about a 235 to 245. You know that these guys are going to be able to pick it up a little bit. Gary Cooper is someone that I have some nice expectations for as well, but what I don't have a lot of expectations for this Cubs bullpen is it's not been a good year for Jose Cuas after he was so good last season. Yancy Almonte and Bear Alzolay, these guys are okay, not great, not terrible, and if you need a long guy, Keegan Thompson I think is very good. Meanwhile, for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Luis Frias, Miguel Castro, these are not trustworthy guys out there in the bullpen, but Scott McGough was one of the more unlucky relievers last season. Kyle Nelson is someone that I do like, and I do think that Tommy Henry going to lend an okay start here. His fielding independent for his career is about a half a point higher than his actual ERA. He's been able to up his swing and miss stuff thus far this season, though. First 2 years at the big league level was only getting about 6.5 to 7 punch outs per 9 innings. He has gotten 15 strikeouts in his first 14 innings thus far this season. I do think that he's going to be able to do a nice job, be able to hold the Cubs down just enough for the Diamondbacks to be able to get the job done. And at this point, I do think that Kyle Hendricks is in bad form, but I do think the positivity coming for both of these pitchers. I did set my line at a minus 139. I'm willing to take the Diamondbacks on the money line, and here to 10, going to be going under. 961, 962 on the card. You've got the Washington Nationals on the road facing off against the LA Dodgers. It is all to be determined on the bump for the Dodgers. Patrick Corbin is going to be on the bump for the Washington Nationals. This is a spot where you have to expect Ryan Yarbrough to be the bulk guy. Might not be the actual starter, but he's going to be seeing a lot of the innings here. And I do think that it's going to be very important to see whether or not Ryan Yarbrough is the starter or if he's going to be the opener. And it does cause for about a 15 or so cent difference. If he is going to be the true starter, I set this line at more around about a minus 228. Would be willing to lay up to about a minus 125 or so on that Dodgers run line. Meanwhile, if he is actually coming out of the bullpen, I'd be a little bit more comfortable going up to about a minus 245 or so, somewhere in that neighborhood. As with Ryan Yarbrough, if you look at him throughout his career, he just has been a different pitcher when he's come out of the bullpen rather than as a starter. As a starter, 4.74 ERA, his home runs per 9 rate, relatively similar to that coming out of the bullpen, but he just doesn't do the same amount of job of being able to induce soft contact in general. Meanwhile, coming out of the bullpen, the ERA actually drops to a 3.86. So I do think that is actually of great importance here. Just feels like he's a little bit more comfortable in that role. And for the Dodgers, they're looking to bounce back after they had a less than savory night as a north of minus 350 favorite yesterday, going up against a Washington Nationals unit that they're not the world's worst team of being able to move the line and getting the ball in play. Right now, you've got Jesse Winker, Luis Garcia, CJ Abrams. These guys hitting above a 300. Riley Adams has been able to provide a little bit of something. Now, Joey Gallo and Eddie Rosario, who they picked up in the offseason, add some pop. Well, you've been able to get the pop out of Joey Gallo, 3+ home runs, but they're not providing any sort of on-base whatsoever. But, no, it's been a relatively solid year for them. You'd like to be seeing a little bit more out of someone like Lane Thomas, but for the Washington Nationals, they've done a nice job being able to get on base. Question is, are they going to be able to get that power? Meanwhile, for the Washington Nationals, they also have to go up against a Dodgers team that each of their top 4 hitters entering into yesterday, hitting above a 300. Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Will Smith. All these guys are probably going to hit 25+ home runs this season. And for Betts and Ohtani, I'm thinking that these guys are going to be going off for 35+ bombs. But the Dodgers' bottom of the fold has not been too great this season. Gavin Lux, James Outman, Chris Taylor, Kike Hernandez, all hitting at the Mendoza line or below that, and this is a Dodgers team that doesn't have the world's greatest bullpen. I like Evan Phillips, but they're having to pick up Nick Ramirez off the scrap heap. Ryan Brazier not looking the same as he did a season ago. Meanwhile, for this Washington Nationals unit, it's not an amazing bullpen of their own. I don't have a lot of faith in Kyle Finnegan, but that said, Derek Law has been able to give you some good innings. Jordan Weems is a guy that I like. Hunter Harvey has been able to do a rock-solid job as well, and for Washington, we all know about Patrick Corbin at this point. He's got north of a 5 ERA and north of a 5 fielding independence since the beginning of the 2023 season. Doesn't give you a lot of strikeouts. Walks about 3 guys per 9 innings. He's going to give up his run. So if it is indeed Yarbrough versus Corbin, and this is pretty much going to be constant whether Yarbrough is the starter or the bulk guy, 9.5 or less, I'll be looking at the over 10 or higher to the under end with Yarbrough. As a starter, about a minus 228 on the money line, minus 125 on the run line, closer to minus 245-ish on the money line, and on the run line, probably closer to about minus 135, maybe even minus 140 if he's coming out of the bullpen. Meanwhile, for Corbin, need at least a plus 230 to take him if Yarbrough starts, north of a plus 245 if Yarbrough is the bulk guy. 963, 964 on the betting board. The Detroit Tigers are going to be playing us to the Texas Rangers. 55 Shades of John Gray goes for the Rangers, and Casey Mize is on the bump for Detroit. Detroit is anywhere between plus 102 to plus 107 underdogs. Anywhere between minus 117 to minus 122 is that number on Texas. 8 is the total. Over is minus 110 to minus 120. The under is anywhere between even to minus 110. And we're going to be taking a look at the over. Did semi-tell it at 8.6. Fully recognize that this Tigers team has been in the bottom 8 in the big leagues with regards to run creation. But that said, with this Detroit Tigers team, you've been having a lot of guys that have been able to do a nice job in the bullpen holding down the fort. Tigers just couldn't win yesterday because they couldn't generate a stinking run. But you look at Alex Lang, Andrew Chafin, Jason Foley. All these guys are giving you really good innings. Joey Wentz has become a nice bullpen piece for the team as well. And for Texas, they've been able to revamp the bullpen after they were a bottom 10 team in the big leagues last season. In terms of bullpen ERA, they addressed it by bringing in David Robertson, Kirby Yates. They've been more league average as far this season. Jose Leclerc, he's a little bit of a roll of the dice, but can give you some nice innings. And for Texas, they've got guys that are moving the line, getting on base. The power outside of Adolis Garcia hasn't really been there, though. They're actually averaging less than a home run per game. Right now, you've got Corey Seager, who I believe missed the game yesterday. He's been dealing with just a few aches and pains in general. Wyatt Langford has yet to go deep, but has been able to get on base, and that's been the Rangers in general. Got a lot of guys that have been able to move the line. Josh Smith is hitting a 3-hour. Marcus Semien, he's doing a good job moving the line. He's got a pair of home runs thus far this season, but not as much pop in general. Meanwhile, for the Detroit Tigers, Spencer Torkelson has not been great for the team thus far this season, and you just look up and down the boulevard for this Detroit Tigers team. Among their top 5 players in terms of total at-bats, none of them are hitting above a 228. Mark Gann has been able to give you 3 home runs. He's able to give you an okay on-base percentage, but not really doing a great job putting the ball in play. And Javi Baez, talk about a waste of money. He's got a $160 on base right now. Gio Urshela has really been your main guy in terms of being able to give you average. He, Kerry Carpenter, Matt Vierling, only above a 275. They're pretty much the only 3 guys on the roster that are hitting it well. And I do think that for the Detroit Tigers, they're going to be able to get a little bit more out of Casey Mize. He missed pretty much all of last season due to injury, and He has mixed up his pitch mix as he's been a little bit inconsistent with regards to being able to get swings and misses thus far, but I do think that's going to come back to him. The command has been relatively solid as well. He has been giving up a bit more contact this year, but it's been a bit more soft contact. Meanwhile, for old John Gray, his command has been off thus far this season. 7 walks in 12 and a third innings. He's got a fielding independent that's about a half a point higher than his 4.38 ERA. He's been giving up throughout his career about 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. I think that that's going to be pretty stable here, and I do fear that John Gray might not be able to lend a lot of length, 5 innings or fewer in each out of his first 3 starts. So at a plus 107 or higher, looking at the Tigers on the money line, and did something I told at 8.6. Casey Mize still coming back from injury, so still a little bit questionable as to what you're going to get there. So looking at the over and the money line of the Detroit Tigers. Now you get my DK Network right to pick 965, 966 on the card. It is the Minnesota Twins on the road facing off against the Baltimore Orioles. Grayson Rodriguez is on the bump for Baltimore. Chris Paddock is on the bump for Minnesota. 8.5 is the total. We were getting juice of minus 110 on the under. It's moved to minus 120. Over is even. And with the Baltimore Orioles, they're going to be getting them between minus 160 to a minus 170. And between plus 142 to a plus 151 is your number on Minnesota. And the write-up here is going to be on the under. I would say try to get the 8.5 if at all possible. And we're starting to see that juice come back to more around about a minus 115 to a minus 110. So all the better there. But write-up is going to be on the under. We've got a guy in Chris Paddock who just hasn't made a lot of starts for Minnesota. He's only made 7 starts and a few relief appearances since they picked him up towards the beginning part of the 2022 campaign. But when he has gotten out there, has posted up about a 4.25 ERA, but the fielding independent is more in the neighborhood of 3. He has been a little bit unlucky on balls in play, giving up less than a home run per 9 innings. He's given up only about 2 walks per 9 innings as well in a Minnesota uniform. And he was, if you remember, a very hot up-and-coming prospect when he was there with the San Diego Padres. He, as a rookie, was able to give you like 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, looked really, really good. And I do think that moving forward, he's going to have a lot of just great starts in general for the Minnesota Twins. Meanwhile, for Grayson Rodriguez, 15 straight starts dating back to last season, in which he has allowed 3 earned runs or fewer for Baltimore. He had a terrible start to the 2023 season, got sent back down to the minor leagues, and then ever since he has resurfaced in these last 15 starts, 2.41 ERA, fielding independent right around 3 with 0.6 home runs and 2.4 walks per 9 innings. You've got a Minnesota Twins team that as well entered into the series averaging about 3.5 runs per game, and they are dead last in the big leagues in terms of batting average, hitting below the Mendoza line of a 200. They just have not been able to get anything rolling whatsoever. Without Royce Lewis, his team is just figuratively and literally powerless, and they're going to need these guys to be able to step up. You've had Carlos Correa, honestly, do a relatively solid job this far this season, but now I know that he's been a little bit banged up as well. You've got so many of these guys. Well, Manuel Margot, Byron Buxton, Christian Vasquez, Carlos Santana, Edouard Julien, Maria. These guys are landing at 210 or lower. Julien has been able to give you 4 home runs, but that's not been great. And for Baltimore, this is a top 8 team in the big leagues with regards to runs per game, scoring about 5.4 runs per game at home, but they're actually averaging more runs per game away from them. Now, if you look at the lineup that you had yesterday for the Baltimore Orioles, you had 5 separate guys in that lineup hitting at least a 295. Cedric Mullins has really been able to pick it up recently. He's been able to supply 4 home runs, and Colton Cowser, though he was a little bit cold yesterday, he's been very solid for the team. But how about Jordan Westberg? He's been able to supply like 3 home runs. He's done a nice job being able to find a way on base. You've got Gunnar Henderson with 4 home runs as well, but both of these bullpens are rock solid. The Minnesota Twins entering into the series number 1 in the league with regards to bullpen ERA. That fell a little bit after the appearances yesterday, but like I said, even with Yohan Duran out of the fold, you've still got a lot of guys locking it down. Jorge Alcala, Cody Funderburk, Griffin Jacks, Brock Stewart. These guys have all been great. Meanwhile, for the Baltimore Orioles, Yunier Cano, you know what you're going to be able to get out of him. Having Dylan Tate back has been big. I like Jacob Webb. Craig Kimbrell is always a little bit of the roll of the dice, but that said, they had to use Craig Kimbrell yesterday, so that's actually a little bit of a positive for you as well in this spot. And I do think that for Baltimore, they're going to get another nice start out of Grayson Rodriguez. If you're looking at that run line of Baltimore, by the way, you're finding that right around about a plus 125. I'm going to be willing to take that, as I did set my money line at a minus 177, but was willing to take about a plus 105 or higher on that run line. I'll look to reduce the juice, take the Baltimore Orioles on the run line, but that said, right up here, that is going to be on the under semi-total, more around a 7.9. 967, 968 on the betting board. The Tampa Bay Rays play out the LA Angels. Jose Soriano is on the bump for the Angels. Aaron Savali is on the bump for Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a favorite of anywhere between minus 150 to minus 160, seeing straight minus 147 as well. Total is anywhere between 8 and 8.5. On the 8, the under is anywhere between minus 110 to a minus 115. The over is anywhere between minus 110 to a minus 105. On the 8.5, under is minus 120, and the over is even. And by the way, for the Angels, you're able to get them between plus 130 and seeing as high as a plus 145 out there as well. With the Rays, I set them at minus 164 on the money line. If you're looking to lay a run and a half with them, you're going to be able to get that at about a plus 140, and I'm going to be willing to lay the run and a half with the Rays. Fully recognize that the Rays have been a little bit of a mess this season, and they actually entered into the day yesterday with the league's worst bullpen ERA. You know that it's going to be a little bit better for the Tampa Bay Rays moving forward. You've got so many reliable guys like Jason Adam, Pete Fairbanks, Colin Boucher that I do think they're going to be able to pick it up moving forward. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, I feel that way about the lineup as well. Isaac Paredes has been great. 5 home runs, 345 on base. And Jose Siri, he's not necessarily hitting home runs right now, but he's been able to move the line much better than he did a season ago. You've got Jose Calabreo along with Ahmed Rosario. We're both hitting north of a 285 as well, but it's Yandy Diaz, Randy Arozarena, both hitting below a 210, both not providing a lot of power. That has been hurting the team. Meanwhile, you've got an LA Angels team that is about as top-heavy as it gets in terms of their lineup as they put up that nice 5 spot in the 8th inning, but I do think that's going to be hit or miss for this team a lot this season as Mike Trout, Taylor Ward, a combined 13 home runs between the two of them. They have been absolutely tremendous, and other than Logan O'Hoppe, I like what Logan O'Hoppe has been able to bring to the table. Everyone else has not been able to do a whole heck of a lot. As a matter of fact, guys not named Trout along with Taylor Ward for this team have a combined 5 home runs thus far this season, so the disparity is certainly there as you've got Joe Adell, Anthony Rendon, Brandon Drury. All these guys have been a little bit hit or miss. I will give Anthony Rendon a little bit of something here. He's up to a 263 average. He has actually been much better in the last few days. He's still a big giant waste of money. He's still not a guy that's living up to his contract, but at the very least, he's given you a little bit more recently. But you still have a lot of guys at the bottom of the fold that are dicey, to say the least. And then you've got a lot of reclamation projects in this bullpen. Hunter Strickland, Adam Simber, Jose Cicierno, Carson Fulmer. These are all guys that have their issues, while Carlos Aceves, Matt Moore at the back half of games, these guys are relatively solid. And for Aaron Savali, it just feels like every single year his ERA is either a point higher or a point lower than his fielding independent. He never actually gets the results that he should. Like last season with the Cleveland Guardians, he had a sub 250 ERA, but his fielding independent was sky high. His fielding independent was actually lower with the Rays, and his ERA was like 5. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing what we've seen out of Savali. But thus far this season, 18 punch-outs in 17 innings. He's only given up 4 walks. He has given up 3 home runs. He's given up the deep ball a little bit. Last start against the Angels, gave up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in 5 innings, including a home run. But all in all, I do like what I'm seeing out of Aaron Savali this season. And for Jose Soriano, this was a gentleman that was coming out of the bullpen by trade prior to about a week or so ago. He's given up 3 home runs in 10 innings as far this season. First start against the Rays, gave up 4 runs in 4 innings, gave you some swings and misses, but I don't think that he's ready to be a big league starter just yet. So I do think that the Rays are going to be able to light him up. Did set my total at an 8.4. Personally, I would rather have an 8 over rather than an 8.5 under. So looking at the over and the Rays on the run line, 969, 970 on the betting board. It is the Toronto Blue Jays, and they play us the New York Yankees. Carlos Rodon is on the bump for the Yankees, and Yusei Kikuchi is on the bump for Toronto. And Toronto is anywhere between a minus 105 to an even money price, slight underdog. Meanwhile, anywhere between minus 110 to a minus 115. Your number on the Yankees, 8.5 is the total. Over and under, anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. And with Yusei Kikuchi, I had to make them a favorite of minus 116 with the Blue Jays, so I'm going to be looking at lay it. Yusei Kikuchi, since the back half of last season, has really been able to find it post All-Star break into 2024 from 2023. In his last 15 or so starts, he's providing about a 3.35 ERA, and what has been impressive, he has mitigated the deep ball. He had such an issue early on in his Toronto career of giving up so many yackers. I mean, in this time span, he's giving up about a half a home run, 0.6 home runs per 9 innings, and he's backed up by a bullpen that certainly is dealing with some injuries, having out of the fold 2 of your main guys in Eric Swanson along Jordan Romano is not great, but Yimi Garcia has looked much better than he was a season ago. You've been able to get some good innings out of Nate Pearson as well. Tim Hayes, after he was amazing last year, has been absolutely awful, but all in all, the bullpen has not been too bad, and for the Yankees, bullpen has been a little bit of a roll of the dice as well. Clay Holmes has been just very up and down throughout his career. Now, I do like the fact that you've got Ian Hamilton along with Victor Gonzalez, Caleb Ferguson. These guys have been relatively solid in past years, but Dennis Santana, you never know what you're going to get out of him. Ron Marinaccio, before getting injured, he was actually really good last season, but he, towards the back half of the season, was seemingly starting to wear down, and coming off of injury, you do have to wonder how formidable he's going to be. Meanwhile, for this Yankees lineup, the top of the fold has been actually quite good for the team. Sans Aaron Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge had that home run against Cleveland on Sunday, but all in all, he's hitting just a $194. Gleyber Torres, along with Alex Verdugo, are struggling as well, but have to love what you've been able to get out of Anthony Volpe, along with Juan Soto. Both are giving you north of a 450 on base, as well as Cabrera has been able to give you some nice pop. He's providing about a 350 on base as well, but it's touch and go with the Yankees right now. For the Blue Jays, this has been one of the most anemic offenses in all of baseball. They had all but 3 of their starters in the lineup yesterday hitting a 215 or lower, with Vlad Guerrero, Bo Bichette, George Springer, along with Alejandro Kirk, only a 217 or lower. That is not ideal to say the least, but Guerrero's been able to supply 3 home runs. And while I do think that we maybe overrated some of these young bats of the Blue Jays, I don't believe that they're as bad as they've shown to be right now. And for Carlos Rodon, he looks better than he did a season ago. A season ago, you could tell that was not Carlos Rodon, but even with him looking a little bit better than a season ago, you tell that he's still not back to being the guy that he was 2 to 3 years ago when he had that cup of coffee with the San Francisco Giants. He was just much better at being able to get swings and misses than he is right now. I mean, to begin the season, he's made 3 starts. He's only gotten 13 strikeouts in 15 and 2/3 innings. The walks have been pretty high with 7 walks, so he still is going through his issues, and I do think that the Blue Jays are going to be able to exploit that. I'm going to be looking at the Blue Jays at a minus 115 or better on the money line, and with regards to total, did set mine at an 8.6. I do think that the Blue Jays going to rise up a little bit more with their offense, so I like the over and the Jays on the money line. 971, 972 on the betting board. The Cleveland Guardians hit the red face-off against the Boston Red Sox. Garrett Woodlock is on the bump for the Sox. Tanner Bybee is on the bump for Cleveland. Cleveland is an underdog of anywhere between even money to minus 105, between minus 108 to minus 115 is that number on Boston. 8.5 to 9 is the total on the 8.5. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105 on the 9. The under is minus 120, and the over is even. I set Woodlock and the Red Sox at a minus 127, so going to be looking at them on the money line. I actually really like what I've seen out of Garrett Woodlock. Now, he needs to go a little bit north of 5 innings because this is a Boston Red Sox bullpen that is proving to be not so reliable, to say the least. But for Whitlock, in his starts thus far, he has made 3 in total, 14 and a third innings, giving up 2 runs, both of which were earned, 16 punch-outs along the way. That has been absolutely tremendous for this team. Meanwhile, for Tanner Bybee, he's a little bit of a touch-and-go pitcher that has been having a rough go of it thus far this season. The 8 walks in 13 and 2/3 innings have been leading to some issues. And for Tanner Bybee, as a rookie last season, he did a good job of just being able to hold down the fort in general. He didn't do anything amazing. He was able to give you right in the neighborhood about 9 strikeouts to 3 walks per 9 innings, mitigated hard contact, posted up a 2.98 ERA, but never felt like he was truly that good. And he was very much a beneficiary of being able to pitch in a pitcher's ballpark out there in Cleveland. During the 2023 campaign, he was able to post up an ERA when he was in Cleveland at a sub 225 to 11 to be exact, meanwhile 379 when he was away from him. But he is backed up by a Guardians team that's in the top 3 in the big leagues. In terms of bullpen ERA, Emmanuel Clase, still one of the best closers that you're going to find in the big leagues. And then on top of that, even though they've been suffering a few injuries with the likes of James Karinchak and company being out, the likes of Eli Morgan, Nick Samlin, Hunter Gaddis, who was a terrible starter but has proven to be a good bullpen piece. These guys have been good, and I mean, that's a lot of this Guardians team. They've got a lot of failed starters in the bullpen, and all these guys are pretty good. Meanwhile, for the Boston Red Sox, Kenley Jansen, when he's not in a super-duper big pressure spot, has been relatively solid. You've got Justin Slayton, who has actually been able to give you some nice innings. I like what Chris Martin is able to bring to the table, but when you're trusting in more of these guys like Greg Weiser and Isaiah Campbell, that has been a little bit less than terrific. And I'm pretty sure Campbell got sent down to the minors after his appearance a few days ago, but what is really concerning for the Red Sox is the bats. 0 or 1 run scored in 5 out of their last 11 games, and this is with Tyler O'Neill hitting 7 home runs. He has been absolutely tremendous, but dealing with some injuries right now as they've been dealing with an ailment to Trevor Story. But what else is new there? Rafael Devers is currently out of the fold, and when both of these guys were in, it's not like they were doing a ton as well. You've got Jaron Duran at the top, who's been hitting a 300, but Tristan Casas, he's been able to give you 4 home runs, give you about a 340 on base. He's been solid, but you were expecting more out of Masataka Yoshida, and then the young guys, Emmanuel Valdez, Pablo Reyes, Sadine Rafaela, hitting below the Mendoza line 200. They do need to iron that out a little bit, and I do think that they're going to be able to do so. I do think that Bybee is going to see a little bit of negative regression and just has not been the same pitcher away from home. And I don't think that Garrett Woodlock continues the sub 150 ERA. You do have a Guardians unit that is hitting more home runs than they did a few seasons ago with the Naylor brothers, Josh and Bo Naylor, being able to supply the boom. And this Guardians team just does a really good job of being able to find a way on base. They hit lefties much better than they hit righties, but Stephen Kwan on Josh Naylor, both hitting above 340 is big. Jose Ramirez has not given you a lot in terms of on-base percentage, but 3 home runs, hitting about a 250, and Andres Gimenez has been rock solid, hitting at 290 with some power as well. I did set my total at 8.7. We're between an 8.5 and a 9 right now. Personally, I would rather take a 9 under rather than an 8.5 over, just because I have some faith in Garrett Whitlock along with the pitching of the Guardians. So looking at the under and looking at the Red Sox up to a minus 126 on that money line. 973, 974 on the betting board. The Kansas City Royals hit the road face off against the Chicago White Sox. Brady Singer hopes to have the White Sox singing the blues, and it is Jonathan Cannon on the bump for the White Sox. Right now, the only place with a number up is Circa, and they set the Royals at a minus 187, plus 169. Very nice for the White Sox. 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 120. The under is even. And if you're looking to lay the run line with the Royals, that's at minus 112, and I am more than willing to lay a minus 112 with this run line. I set mine at a minus 126. For Brady Singer, he was one of the more unlucky pitchers in all baseball last season. Had a fielding independent that was about 0.7 points lower than his actual ERA, and thus far this season, he has just really come out of the gate strong. 18 and a third innings in his 3 starts, has given up 2 runs, just 4 walks along the way, and now he has to go up against a former third-round pick of the Georgia Bulldogs in Jonathan Cannon, who at the minor league level, he was only getting about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, gave up about a home run per 9, about 3 walks per 9. Nothing bad, but not really anything amazing for a White Sox team that I guess decent would be good for this team, because you just take a look at this bunch and my goodness gracious, they have an absolutely terrible bullpen where Dominic Leone is right now one of your key cogs. Michael Kopech just can't stop giving up home runs. They get rid of so many of their trustworthy bullpen pieces from a season ago, so now you're left with Steven Wilson trying to hold down the fort for the team, who, to his credit, he's actually been halfway decent, but that said, you're throwing out there Tim Hill with his north of 8 ERA. You just have not been able to get much in general out of Davey Garcia as well. Big time issues there, and for the Chicago White Sox, right now, they are dealing with ailments to arguably their 2 best hitters, and Eloy Jimenez along with Luis Robert. You've actually had Gavin Sheets be able to supply a few home runs. He's giving you north of a 320 on base, but the White Sox last season were dead last in the big leagues with regards to walks drawn on a per at basis. They're one of the bottom teams once again this season, though the Kansas City Royals are right there. Both of these teams just do not do a good job of being able to draw walks in general, but that said, this is a Royals team that at the very least they've got some upside in terms of their lineup, and in terms of their lineup, they've got a lot of pop, as Salvador Perez along with Bobby Witt Jr. both have 4 home runs as far this season, both that are hitting well north of a 300. Meanwhile, Vinny Pasquantino, MJ Melendez, Miguel Garcia, they've all been able to give you 3 home runs. Garcia is hitting for just a 224 on base, so he's been an all or nothing inning hitter, but Pasquantino, MJ Melendez both give you about a 345 on base, like what I've seen on them. Bottom full with guys like Hunter Renfroe, Kyle Isbell, they leave a little bit of something to be desired, as does this bullpen of the Royals, like James MacArthur, Jordan Lyles, Anel Zerpa. These are guys who are just not cutting it. Will Smith does get a little bit too jiggy with it, but going up against this just absolutely awful White Sox lineup, I do think that the Royals are going to take it to them, and I'm going to be taking a look at the over on a 7.5 semi-total at 8.4, because I do think that Cannon gets cannonballed, and I do think that the Royals really take it out on the bullpen. I do think that the White Sox might be able to generate a few runs on this Royals bullpen as well, so like the over, but also going to be looking at the run line of the Royals. 975, 976 on the betting board. The Atlanta Braves hit the road face off against the Houston Astros. Hunter Brown goes for the Astros, and Reynaldo Lopez is on the bump for the Atlanta Braves. 10 is the total. Over is anywhere between minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is between minus 105 to a minus 110. The Bravos are anywhere between minus 108 to minus 115 favorites. And between even money to minus 105 is that number on Houston. And with Houston, I did set them as a underdog of plus 122. So circumstance where I'm going to be taking a look at the Atlanta Braves on the money line with Reynaldo Lopez. He just was misused by the Chicago White Sox coming out of the bullpen last season. It just feels like he's much more comfortable in that starter's role. Has always been able to give you right around about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. The command has been a little bit spotty this far this season with 5 walks in 12 innings, but all in all, he's been able to do a solid job mitigating our contact. Well, Hunter Brown just has not been great at home. Since the beginning of the 2023 season, he's got north of a 6 ERA when he's at home, giving up darn near 6 walks per 9 innings. That's less than terrific, and he's coming off giving up 14 runs in 3 2/3 innings in his last 2 starts. Yeah, that's not good to say the least. I have no idea how he didn't get sent down to the minor leagues. I think that that's just a lack of options in general for the Houston Astros, and this Astros bunch is in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA as well. This despite the fact that they do have Ryan Presley along with Josh Hader in that bullpen, but they lost so many guys like Ryan Stanek, Phil Maton, Hector Neris from past seasons, so they've been looking to the likes of Parker Molshinsky, Joel Kuhnel, Brandon Belock for big innings, and it's not panning out. Brian Abreu, who's typically solid in the bullpen, has been a bit shaky as well. And for the Atlanta Braves, they do leave a little bit of something to be desired in the bullpen. They're about league average in terms of their bullpen ERA, but you still have one of the nastiest closers in the big leagues in Raciel Iglesias. Jesse Chavez still in lead. These guys have been very reliable for this bunch, and AJ Minter has been looking rock solid as well. And for the Houston Astros, they have to go up against a Death Star lineup. Marcell Ozuna, 7 bombs and is hitting a .365. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible what you're seeing out of this Atlanta Braves team, and their top 6 hitters, actually their top 7 hitters in terms of total at-bats, all hitting at least a .286. And all but one of them have been able to supply at least 2 home runs. Ronald Acuna Jr. is still stuck on 0, and Orlando Arcia is as well. But this team is just absolutely ripping. The cover off the ball entered into the day number 2 in the big leagues with regards to runs scored per game behind the Brewers. They'll be able to overtake them for number 1 soon. And for the Astros, it's a top-heavy lineup. Jose Altuve, Kyle Tucker, along with Yordan Alvarez. These guys are doing a solid job, giving you all at least a .360 on base for Tucker and Altuve, a combined 9 home runs for them. Yordan Alvarez, 4 home runs as well. But Alex Bregman, even though he hasn't provided any home runs, he's moving the line. He's hitting at .260, but Jose Abreu hitting below the Mendoza line of 200 at a .082. Chas McCormick hasn't been able to give you too much. Jake Myers, you were hoping for a little bit more out of him as well, and I do think that Ronaldo Lopez does a solid job holding down the fort. And I think that Hunter Brown sees a little bit of positivity here, so I did set my total at a 9.8 here at the 10, looking at the under, but with the race, willing to lay up to a -121 with that money line. 977, 978 on the betting board. The Cincinnati Reds, yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're under the road facing off against the Seattle Mariners. Logan Gilbert goes for Seattle. Hunter Green is on the bump for Cincinnati. The Reds find themselves as an underdog anywhere between +114 to +118. Meanwhile, and between -125 to -135 is that number on the Seattle Mariners. 7 is the total. Over is -115. The under is -105. Needed at least +135 to take a shot on the Reds, so I'm going to be willing to lay it with the Seattle Mariners. Now, good news for Hunter Green. He's in one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks in all the big leagues, and that's big for him because with Hunter Green, throughout his career, he's just had a tough time giving up rockets in general. For his career, well north of 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, and much of this is a byproduct of the fact that he plays out there in Cincinnati. Cincinnati is a launching pad for a whole bunch of home runs, and you just take a look at his career home and road split, so this is 2+ seasons, and when he's been away from home, he's been a relatively rock-solid pitcher. 4.43 ERA, he has still given up right around about 1.4 or so home runs per 9 innings, but he's given up more like 2.2 home runs per 9 innings at home, a 4.87 ERA. Meanwhile, for Logan Gilbert, he's done a nice job of being able to hold down the fort and be one of the most steady pieces for the Seattle Mariners team all season long. 20 1/3 innings in his 3 starts, so he's giving you length. His strikeout numbers are up to about 10 punch-outs per 9 innings. Has only given up 3 walks in 20+ innings, but it's the Seattle Mariners bats that just have not been great to say the least. Good news for Seattle. They finally had a nice outburst with the bats a night ago. They were able to go off for 9 runs. That is big, but you do have to wonder if it's going to be a mainstay or if that was one night only, because even with what we saw last night, you've got Cal Raleigh, Luke Raley, J.P. Crawford, Julio Rodriguez, Ore Polanco, all hitting a 205 or lower. It's really been Mitch Haniger and Ty France that have been getting on base for this team, being able to provide some pop. Haniger up to 3 home runs, and Ore Polanco is as well. So you need these guys to continue that moving forward. And for the Cincinnati Reds, it's been a lot of inconsistency for some of their younger guys. Christian Encarnacion Strand, you've had Jameer Candelario, who's not a younger guy, but certainly has been around for quite a while. Jonathan India hitting below a 215. Will Benson is starting to be able to move the line for the team, and Ellie De La Cruz, Spencer Sear, 3+ home runs apiece for these guys. Both of these guys have done a very nice job of providing a rock-solid on-base percentage. Ellie De La Cruz hitting about a 267, Steer well above a 300 with about a 449 on-base. And for the Reds, they've got a substandard to average bullpen. It's nothing great, it's nothing terrible. You've had in the bullpen Emilio Pagan, Lucas Sims, Fernando Cruz doing okay but not great job. I like Alexis Diaz as their closer. Buck Farmer, he does an, again, okay job. But for Seattle, they just pluck these guys out of just pretty much nowhere, and they find a way to be able to get good innings out of them for this bullpen. Gabe Spire, Trent Thornton, Taylor Cicado, these guys have all been very good. Matt Brash is currently injured, but you saw Andres Munoz being able to hold down the fort. There's such a good bullpen that they were able to move on from Penn Murphy and not really miss a beat. So I do think that for the Mariners, they're going to do a nice job in this ordeal, and I do think that they're going to be able to take Hunter Green deep once or twice in this one. It's a Reds team that has been generating quite a bit of offense as well. So I do think that the Mariners are going to start to see some positivity with the run scoring. Semi-total at 8.2. I like the over. And with the Mariners, willing to lay up to a minus 133 on this money line. So going to be signing with Seattle along with the over. And we're at things up with 979, 980 on the betting board. The St. Louis Cardinals are on the road facing off against the Oakland AAAs. As you've got JP Sears going for the A's, and they don't deserve to be called AAAs quite yet because they've actually been playing halfway decent. Meanwhile, Lance Lynn is on the bump for St. Louis. He should probably be sent to AAA. Total on this game, it is 8. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105 for St. Louis. They're between minus 140 to minus 148 favorites. And between plus 122 to plus 131 is your number on Oakland. And for the A's, I was willing to think anything of a plus 119 or higher with them. Now, for JP Sears, needs to reduce hard contact. Last season was giving up darn near 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. And despite the fact that Oakland is so pitcher friendly, he had a higher ERA at home rather than away from home. It's been a little bit rough for him thus far this season as well. 6 walks in 15 and 2/3 innings, and it just has not been able to generate a lot of strikeouts. And for Lance Lynn, last few seasons, he's gotten 10 plus strikeouts per 9 innings. He's just given up rockets. Since the beginning part of the 2023 season, giving up about 2.2 home runs per 9 innings. It's at home, it's on the road, it is everywhere with Lance Lynn, and he's backed up by a bullpen that is a little bit less than savory. You've been able to get some good innings over the last few seasons out of Ryan Helsley when he's been healthy, but he's the only guy from this bullpen from a season ago that had a sub-3.5 ERA. I like the Andrew Kittredge pickup, but that said, Jojo Romero, Andre Palante, Ryan Fernandez, these are guys that are highly unreliable. And for the Oakland A's, this team is actually a top 6 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Mason Miller, in my opinion, should be starting, but he has been very good on that bullpen. Meanwhile, you've got the likes of Michael Kelly, Austin Adams. These are reclamation projects that are providing a sub-3 ERA. Danny Jimenez is a really nice young bullpen piece as well. But for the Oakland A's, this is one of the worst lineups out there in the big leagues. That's why they've been playing so many unders. You've got Esteury Ruiz, who's back. He had a nice pinch hit home run yesterday, so that's something that you do like to see. But among the starters for the Oakland A's yesterday, you had 3 guys hitting above a 212 leaving the game. So that's not necessarily too tremendous. You need a little bit more of the likes of Ryan Noda, Seth Brown, Shea Langolaris. Langolaris had that 3 home run game, but all these guys, they're aiming below them. There's a line of a 200. Brent Rooker has been in and out of the fold as well. Zach Galoff has not necessarily been able to give you a ton, but for St. Louis, this has been a bottom 10 team in the big leagues with regards to their overall run production, as well as Paul Goldschmidt is really scuffling, hitting a .183 this far this season with 1 home run. Nolan Arenado is not providing a lot of home runs, but the catcher spot has been productive. Ivan Herrera along with Wilson Contreras, these guys both have 3+ home runs apiece. Mason Wynn is actually really producing at the bottom of the fold. That is big because you've had Michael Sini, Jordan Walker, Victor Scott, all hit below the nose line of 200, but getting back Lars Nootbaar, that's big for the team. And then Brandon Donovan just has some very big home and road splits as well. That does leave me to being off-put a little bit by the St. Louis Cardinals lineup. I do think that JP Sears going to be able to find it here, and I do think that Lance Lynn gives up his fair share amount of runs, and that's a big reason why I do like the over, even though it's a nighttime game out there in Oakland. I did set my total at 8.2. I like the over, and with the Oakland A's going to be taking that plus price with them on the money line. That'll wrap things up for the Tuesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter /X timeline at @unit_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter. So, as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you are able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season. And a big thanks once again to Chris Cichon, who does great work over at WTOP Sports. And that means I'm going to be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.